Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Monday, the 11th of March. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined by a full squad this morning. First of all, Joshua Barry. How's it going, Joshua?
Good, Derek. Yeah, late night for Chris and I, and I'm sure many people watching. Rangers get through to the Scottish Cup semi-finals, but I think as the headline says, at what cost? And I guess we'll get into a little bit of what I thought was a very interesting post-match press conference from Philippe Clement.
Yes, we've got a few clips we'll fire up shortly. Chris, how's it going?
Rangers and full squad don't really go together these days, do we? I think we're the only Rangers full squad on the go. That was another good win for Rangers last night. Another impressive win overall. But as Josh says, as I'm sure we're going to come on to, at what cost did it come at? Another disappointing on the injury front for Rangers.
Yeah, it certainly was. Before we dive right in, folks, just a quick word for our podcast sponsors, the MPH Group, Scotland's award-winning family-run all-trade specialist covering all of mainland Scotland. The all-important links are in the description below, as always, so do go and check them out if that is something you are thinking of. Right, let's look into the game. Joshua, Rangers, of course, making it to the last four. The draw will take place after the Morton against Hearts game that takes place today. Rangers joining Aberdeen and Celtic in that draw. So we'll eagerly await that later on. And really it was a pretty comfortable display from Rangers yesterday at Easter Road, taking the lead, cut the state of a penalty that was awarded after Dujon Sterling was filled in the box. It was a blatant penalty. I think there's only one guy in Scotland that didn't think it was, and that was the co-commentator. But James Tavernier stepped up. It was initially parried by David Marshall, but John Lundstram anticipated the rebound and just bundled the ball home. So Rangers leading at the break. They were well on top of Hibs in that first half. May have had a second goal before the break, but Hibs came out and sort of had a go in that second half. Jack Butland called into action on a couple of occasions before the big incidents, two sending offs. The first one, 2 yellow cards. Obita showing a second yellow for raising his arm somewhat and what shall we say? They're just blocking the run of Rabi Matondo, who saw a second yellow sent off before a straight red was shown for a second Hibs player for diving in on John Lundstram, and Hibs were down to 9 men. Pandemonium in the dugout from the Hibs bench, but Rangers kept their cool throughout and found that second goal. Fabio Silva with a terrific finish to make it comfortable in the end for Rangers. Mariah Welsh was a player, incidentally, got shown the straight red for Hibs. I don't think there was any real debate about that, given the laws of the game. You can't be diving in like that anymore, whether it's from behind, from the side, or wherever. Rangers progressing to the next round, Joshua, but as we touched on, at what cost? Dujon Sterling taken off after holding the back of his leg. It looks like a possible hamstring injury, and wasn't ideal. Ross McCausland also taken off as well. And before I get your view on it, let's hear what the manager had to say on those injuries in particular. Let's fire up Philippe Clement here.
People are falling out, coming back, and other falling out. So there are only a few players in the squad really ready for what I want, and that's a competitive team who's there every 3 days with that intensity. So you have a few, like Connor, John, Lenny, Tav, are proving that. And there are a few players growing in that way. But I want the total squad to be ready, but for that you need more training, what I cannot do now for the moment because we have all these games. But the most important thing is the solidarity, and now everybody's working hard for the team in whatever position and doing the job there. And that's why we get all these results in a row.
So there was Philip Clement on the squad situation at this moment in time, Joshua. Lots to unpack there. Where should we start? Possibly the injury situation at this point in time. We've seen that Dujon Sterling had an ice pack on his leg after Thursday night against Benfica. Perhaps maybe in hindsight, the manager might be thinking, was it worth the risk? Depends on what the severity of that injury is, of course. But huge blow.
Yeah, I thought overall, in the circumstances, Chris and I spoke about it really briefly last night. Rangers looked leggy, understandably, but they won. You can't be picky at this time of the season, let alone with the injury situation. We've got a piece that's in the description, Derek, that is on the website today that goes into a little bit more detail about what I think the big takeaway from the game was. And I think just before Clement started speaking there, he said, we're not where I want them to be because for that I need preparation, what they missed clearly. And it's quite a pointed comment. And Clement he's not, I think really, Derek, he's been without his front four now, or at least three of his front four, and Cantwell, Sima and Cortez, maybe Danilo. At least three of those are going to play in a Clement team if everyone's fit. And obviously Danilo played ahead of Cyril Dessers when both were fit as well. And he's not really used that as an excuse once. And I don't know how many teams would be able to cope with that number of areas in one period of the pitch, which is why the Sterling and McCausland issues are so concerning. So to go into the injuries first, it's a huge. I don't think mentality is the question. The Motherwell game maybe raised some of those questions, but Rangers got a bit of a get out of jail free card, which they've not really had in seasons gone by, and they've responded to it really well. Clement said there's solidarity, everyone's fighting for everyone, everyone's playing in different positions. The question is now, I think increasingly, do they have the legs for these games? Because while you can say, okay, Sterling shouldn't have played, and we don't know exactly, how he was feeling before the game. We know Clement is someone who takes the kind of medical advice very seriously when he's selecting a team. But you're at a stage of the season, Derek, where it's so difficult to rest players. I think it's the first time he's played consecutive starting 11s, and that's reflective of the fact that the games are just bigger now, and there's less room for error, because while a couple of months ago you could still rotate in big games, you had more time to make up ground or more time to sort out your season. This is a cup quarter final. You don't have that luxury, and there's just such limited options. Rabbi Matondo clearly wasn't ready for a full 90 minutes last night, neither as it materialised was Ross McCausland. So I think that's the big talking point out of last night. Clement saying that effectively, look, the team is not ready for the type of football, the intensity of football, the type of running that I want them to play. They've not been prepared for that. And there's only a few, being Butland, Tavernier, Goldson, Lundstram, John Suter, who are ready for that, who have that durability to play 3 games consistently, a game every 3 days, at the intensity that Clement wants. And I think the question coming out of last night, Derek, is Rangers keep winning, and Clement's done an incredible job in the circumstances. It shouldn't be overestimated that he is missing, half of his attack and most of his best attackers. But the question is, when you've got Sterling and McCausland going down, once we learn of the severity of those injuries, when will it start to actually make an impact? Because obviously in December you had Danilo, his injury. In January you had Sima, you had Cantwell and Cortez in the space of the last month, and you just got hope that Sterling and McCausland are okay and they're not added to that list of long-term injury issues.
Yeah, let's hear what the manager had to say incidentally on those 2 injuries in particular. Here he is.
I'm not a doctor. It's a pity sometimes this season. I would have liked to be a doctor sometimes, but we have a really good one who's really clear in his assessment all the time. So I cannot say now, and he cannot say now. So we will examine then the next 2 days to see what's going on. And it's dangerous for me to say it's not serious or it's serious if it's not the truth. I always want to say the truth to you guys. So we will see the next couple of days.
Chris, that's of course, there's been touched on 2 more attack-minded players out of the squad. It remains to be seen how long they're going to be out for. It just adds severity, insult to injury, if you like, and the options that Philip Clement has at his disposal seem to be getting more limited by the game. With the club fighting on 3 fronts, are you concerned going forward that they're just going to run out of quality in the end, and the injuries are going to pile up and cost Rangers here?
I think you have to be concerned at the number of players that are out. It's not just the number that you're taking out of a squad; it's that you're taking out in one particular portion of the pitch. As I mentioned to Josh last night on a post-match video, think back to December and we lost a handful of midfielders and really down to bare bones and heading into Fir Park. Thoughts turning to the Old Firm game. It's now flipped and we've got midfielders back, but it's now the final third. We know the situation with Dessers and Silva. If one of them was to drop out, Rangers are in real trouble in terms of centre forward. But a squad who was not exactly blessed with blistering pace and natural width already has now seen Scott Wright drop out. We've lost Steamer, obviously, which has been a huge blow. Cortez come in and look really impressive to then lose him, a real blow. And you then add in Todd Cantwell to that as well. And you just think you're taking so much guile, so many goals, so much creativity. It's taking such a huge part of the side out of the side, and eventually it has to catch up. Now, thoughts already also turning to Thursday. Normally, you would think Matondo, having been out for a month, he would get 20 minutes or so last night. He would maybe get half an hour on Thursday. He's going to probably have to start on Thursday because who else is there to play in one of those wide roles? And it's a problem that's not of the manager's making. It's not his doing, but it's him that has to try and find solutions. But the number of solutions is very close to outweighing or is being outweighed by the number of problems right now. Rangers really struggling in that final third, and I think when you look at the volume of games coming up, the size of them, the importance of them, you have to be wary that can this squad, is there enough there to actually get through and continue winning all these matches?
Yeah, and that's not even mentioning young Zach Lovelace, who suffered a hamstring tear on his comeback game for the B team last week as well. Looks like he's going to be out for another 2 months as well, just when we were discussing last week about him possibly contributing between now and the end of the season. If Sterling and McCausland are out long term, Joshua, who comes in?
Well, the positive would be that Sterling was, I believe, walking about without crutches, I was told last night. So you hope that, and he was able to walk off the pitch, the same as Ross McCausland. So you hope it's not a tear, and you hope it is just that he's felt something and he's come off, and maybe starting on Thursday is premature. Clement, when I asked him at the end there, how do you know how bad the injuries are, and he didn't want to make an assumption, but earlier in the press conference he had said we'll see about Thursday. So while not giving an update on what the injury was or how severe he thought it was, I think if they were in the changing room and they were on their way to hospital right away, or they weren't able to walk, then he wouldn't have even mentioned that. So I guess that would be the hopeful point. But Chris is right. Regardless, I don't think either of those two players will start. So it's up to Clement to find more solutions. He's done that consistently. I think the bigger question or the counter argument to this, Derek, is where would Rangers be going into these final 2 months of the season if they had Sima fit, if they had Cortez fit, Cantwell, all these players? Because since he came into the club, I don't think Clement has had a really good run at it in terms of injuries. He inherited a squad who had a lot of injuries, started to get some semblance of a squad before Christmas, but then you had, as Chris mentioned, all the issues in the centre of midfield. Now it's all the issues in the attack and third. Rangers keep winning. They're in the Scottish Cup semi-finals. You just hope that they can get through now to the international break coming up with 2 big games between now and then. But in terms of who plays on the right-hand side, you're looking at probably Rabbi Matondo, who I don't think is natural. Some teams in Europe, I think it can suit his game because he's got space. But I think he always looks far more comfortable playing off the left-hand side. Cole McKinnon obviously came off the bench last night again and did well, having done well away in Lisbon on Thursday night. So Clement has had to find solutions so far, and I don't think it's a worry that he won't be able to do that because he's achieved that consistently. The question is how long can that go on until the legs are just gone? And I thought Rangers did look tired last night in possession, in particular, and it took them keeping their heads when Hibs lost theirs. When Hibs went down to 9 men to actually have a period of possession. Lundstram gets the goal, he gets a really good assist for Fabio Silva, who I thought was really good again. It's just about getting to the international break and trying to get Sima back, who I believe is not too far away, trying to get Cantwell back into contention. And once you have a couple, as was the case with Rabbi Matondo on the bench last night, you think, okay, there's some depth. But as Chris pointed out to me, I think just before we went onto the video, you've taken one step forward with Rabbi Matondo coming back into the squad in terms of wide options, and two steps back with Dujon Sterling and Ross McCausland having to come off the pitch last night.
Yeah, and just on, you mentioned Cole McKinnon there, another good performance from the young lad. He's getting opportunities, which is great to see. Francis, with the point here, Chris, was impressed with young Cole McKinnon again. You think we'll see him start on Thursday? I think the way it's going, he's got a good shout at starting.
I think if Josh takes his boots to Ibrox, he's got a good chance to get the game on Thursday. Not mind Cole McKinnon. I think McKinnon has come in and been really impressive. We spoke a lot about Ross McCausland when he first came into the squad. It's been in the time, it's being available, it's been fit. When the door opens, you have to go and take the opportunity. Did that in a very impressive way. If McKinnon can follow that example, great. The manager mentioned last night about our younger players having to come into the squad, and Rangers need to be more productive in terms of bringing young players through the ranks. You can't just go and buy ready-made players all the time. Sometimes you have to bring them through the academy structure. It's been great to see McCausland come in and do that. If he hadn't been at the level, Rangers would have had some real problems at times this season, because the options just haven't been there. McKinnon, I'm not sure he's in line for a start, but he's definitely going to be in the squad. He'll definitely be in the squad next week or this weekend against Dundee as well. And I say fair play to him. I think he's looked really impressive. Perhaps someone who didn't have the best of times on loan at Partick Thistle, but has clearly made the most of his time under the manager. And you'll be able to see his post-match interview on the YouTube in a couple of hours, and I had a written piece with him just around about lunchtime as well, just to give people a bit more insight into where he's at and what he's looking to achieve under the manager. But he does mention in that just what an impact Clement has had on him, and I think we look across the squad, the manager has had that impact on almost every single player. But for a young player to have a manager who's got that belief in you, who's thrown you into European games away to Benfica, if that doesn't give you a bit of confidence, if that doesn't inspire you, then nothing will. So hopefully there's a lot more to come from McKinnon. I don't think he's a starter right now, but given the injury situation and given how things have been going, he may well find himself required from the start at some point.
Yeah, everyone loves to see a young lad coming through the academy and making senior first-team appearances. So, delighted for Cole McKinnon, and hopefully he makes a few more. I'm sure he will between now and the end of the season and beyond. Let's talk about the two goal scorers. Joshua, of course, John Lundstram with the goal yesterday. Great anticipation after Tav's penalty was saved. I thought he was fantastic yesterday. I mean, in the predicted teams, I had him dropping out because I felt that he needed a rest. He looked leggy over in Portugal. It wasn't his best performance, but he just drove the team yesterday. He was his normal self. James with the point says Lunny was immense, drove the team on yesterday. Absolutely, James. He was rightfully named the man of the match as well. He's been probably, Jack Butland, of course, aside, he's been the best performer under Philip Clement since he's arrived. Joshua, another top performance from him yesterday.
Yeah, I think him, Butland, probably stick James Tavernier up there in most of these conversations. Ridvan Yilmaz again just continues to. It wasn't a standout game for him last night, but just continues to make Rangers a better team, I think, when he starts at left back. But I agree with you, Derek. Lundstram looked tired on Thursday night, but as Clement said, he's in this kind of core 4 outfield players who can just play every game and play every 3 days and do so at required intensity. And there was a couple of moments where he made really important defensive interceptions dropping into the back line. Obviously, he's the one who gets to the ball quickest to earn that second red card from a Hibs perspective. Scores the goal, and it's an important goal because if James Tavernier misses that penalty, Chris will agree with me, it was good atmosphere last night at Easter Road. They've not beaten Rangers there in a long time. They obviously wanted to. They could sense, I think, the Rangers weren't at their best, and as Clement again suggested post-match, they'd had the whole week to prepare for that. I think Hibs have improved since January, certainly in their attacking areas. So that was a really important goal to score. And the second pass, I know Hibs have 9 men by that point, but it did feel like they created a few opportunities or a few moments getting up the pitch. Not shots on target, but they got into the final third a fair amount, had a few threatening set pieces at the start of the second half. And I thought it just took that 2-3 minute spell for Rangers to pass side to side and just wait for a gap. Fabio Silva I thought he was at a close second maybe for man of the match as well, because again, playing on that left-hand side, a lot of defensive work to do. Didn't come off from a couple of moments when he tried to cut inside and his right, because the difficulty I think he's got being wide out left is that he's not got blistering pace. So sometimes you'll see him hit the byline, but not that frequently, and that's why I think you see him in Benfica, away at Benfica, you see Diomande make that run for the first goal. I think that's what Clement tries to do when he's not got wingers. He needs runs from the midfield on that side to compensate. But the point being, he found the space on that occasion. He had the right time. His feet were so quick to get the ball onto his right foot. I think that's his fourth goal for Rangers now. And again, while that conversation goes on about what is his best position, I think you want to get him into the starting 11 as much as possible at the moment, because again, he's someone who I think is making Rangers a better team, and hopefully with Sima coming back into the squad sometime towards next month, then you're going to have a little bit more depth up there. But I agree with you, Lundstram's been fantastic under Clement. He's been consistent. He's just been there as well when a lot of players around him have fallen out so consistently. And a goal and an assist last night, and outside of that, a really important performance to make sure the Rangers got to Hampden.
Yeah, he's a real leader, John Lundstram, and we're seeing the best of him, which is a good thing. Like you say, Joshua, given the lack of options, but certainly in midfield, Rangers do have plenty of options in there. No, Ryan Jack wasn't available again yesterday. Let's hope that's nothing too serious. Nico Raskin, I think we all want to see him start improving his performances, but he came on yesterday as well. Just on Fabio Silva, David McCausland with the point here, Chris. Silva, another class performance out in the left. Best position for me. As Joshua touched on as well, over on that left-hand side, we've seen him, he did well against Benfica last week. Also, would you like to see him playing out there on a more regular basis, do you think?
I think he's going to have to, is he not? Unless there's a whole host of guys back sooner than we believe. I know the last couple of weeks I think we have spoken about, can you have Dessers and Silva in the same side? Is it too big of an injury risk? Right now it's needs must for Rangers. There's no one else who is playing that wide left role as well as Silva is at present. I thought he was really good on Thursday night. Again, yesterday, took his goal really well. Came at an important time, because if it goes into the last couple of minutes, Hibs start firing long balls at Rangers and it gets a bit desperate, can get a bit frantic. Didn't think Conor Goldson was overly impressive last night. Didn't really want Rangers going into the last couple of minutes, with Hibs really trying to exploit that. It could have been a tricky night for Rangers. They needed that second goal, and Silva gets it with a real moment of quality. Shifts the ball nicely, a nice finish, and as soon as that goes in, it's job done, game one, and everyone can relax. So you need big players to step up in big moments like that. And Silva, once again, I say he produced when it mattered most last night.
Yeah. Before we touch on the two red cards, Joshua, there was a point that came in from Denzel here on Connor Goldson. There's been a few comments on him as well that have popped in. A little concern about Goldson. Mistakes are creeping into his game that weren't as apparent a couple of seasons ago. I think that's a fair comment. I don't think he's at his scintillating best, Connor Goldson. I've seen a few suggesting that ahead of the team selection that Leon Balogun should come back in, not for John Souttar, but for Connor at the heart of the Rangers defence. What's your viewpoint on Connor recently, Joshua?
I thought he had a bad game in possession last night, and Chris and I commented on that a few times, where it just didn't feel like, I think Hibs were leaving him on the ball a bit, and it didn't feel like I think that's a team-wide issue as well. The team weren't really sharp when they were playing out from the back, and it looked a bit leggy, so sometimes maybe people weren't showing or making runs in behind. I don't think he's in his best run of form. And hopefully that doesn't continue. Hopefully he doesn't pick this time to be inconsistent at Rangers, which he hasn't been. So, he's hit 300 games. I believe it was the quickest player to do that at Rangers. So he's been fantastic up until now overall. When players hit a certain age, you always start to think, how will that impact their game? But again, he's probably just put it down to the fact that he's playing so much football. I know he scored that own goal in midweek, and he struggled at home to Motherwell as well. Rangers need him to obviously turning better performances between now and the end of the season. But judging by his Rangers career overall, you'd hope it's just a blip. Just wanted to add on Fabio Silva as well, Derek. I think one of the issues that when he's played up top, and I think he's had some really good performances up top. If he had Seaman and Cortez around him and players that were going to run him behind, I think it changes that dynamic a lot. If you have Cantwell behind him, if you have Seaman on the left, if you have Cortez on the right, or vice versa, you have players who naturally want to go and occupy the roles that when Silva, because even if Silva plays at number 9, as he said himself, this topic that we've continually discussed, he's someone who wants to combine with teammates. He wants to move out of the number 9 zone, doesn't just want to stay in the box. So I think it depends a lot on the players around him as well. When Abdallah Sima comes back, I expect him to be the one who plays off the left more regularly. And I think then if you have someone like Silva, as Danilo did a bit as well, who is comfortable dropping out, but then you have someone like Seymour Cortez who can go and occupy, or even Campbell, as we saw more increasingly towards the start of this year, make those second striker runs beyond, and I think that will help. But I agree with Chris. I think he's been really good as of late, and will he keep playing on the left? Yes, because there's no one else to play that role. But he's been doing very well out there.
Yeah, right. Let's discuss the red cards. Philip Clement was asked about them after the game. He said, I didn't see them back. If you put a hand or an arm in the face, you can get a yellow. That everybody knows. The tackle was a few yards from me. It's a reckless tackle with the studs in front, and it doesn't matter then if you break a leg or not. It's just reckless. I think it is important to get that kind of tackle out of the game, because we have seen the last couple of weeks sometimes when we didn't get the red card. I was not happy about that also that moment. I think it's not good for Scottish football, English football, Belgian football, German football. Tackles like that, players need to know that if you tackle like that, you get a red card. It's for nobody. It is for nobody good, because it's a danger to injure someone if you go in like that. Hard to disagree with the manager there, Chris. As I touched on earlier, the Michael Stewart amazingly didn't think it was a penalty in the first half, and the 2 reds. Also, it will surprise you to learn, but. For me, the two reds. The first one, of course, is a second yellow for Jonathan Obita, and then Nathan Mariah Welsh. You can't dive into that anymore. What was your view on the 2 reds? Do you think they were the right calls?
Right. It's very, very rare that we're going to come on a briefing and praise a referee for his performance, but I thought the penalty call was spot on. The Obita one is 2 yellow cards, and the sending off is as clear a sending off as I've seen for quite some time. I saw some of the online chat when we were in the press room last night, and then when I got back in last night, going through some of social media stuff, and you see comments from supporters of clubs other than Rangers going full kind of tinfoil hat. It's this and it's conspiracy and the game's rigged. I just don't understand it. It's almost as if Rangers are not to get penalties and players should not be sent off in matches just because they're playing Rangers. It's a nonsense. It was a stonewall penalty last night, and I think the referee got both red cards right. The sending off, as you say, Derek, as the manager said last night, you can't go charging into challenges like that and not expect to get a red card these days. It's just the whole reaction to it last night was just bizarre. Yes, I thought the manager called it right, as he has done. I think he's been very, very fair on. There were a lot of controversial decisions involving Rangers over the last wee while. I think he's called them all spot on. He's been very fair. He's not gone way over the top. He's not name-checked referees or VAR. He's been very, very fair in terms of how he sees different incidents. So I think he's called them all right, and the referee got them all right last night as well. This faux outrage just because it's Rangers that's involved, it's getting a bit wearisome and a bit tiresome.
Yeah, on Viaplay, Michael Stewart said the officials had lost the plot. The only person that lost the plot, I think, was him with the decisions. I thought the referee and the linesman had a good game. Joshua, do you agree with Chris? There were 2 reds for you?
Yeah, and you sometimes sense it in a game where Hibs understandably wanted to be aggressive and they were a goal down and their fans were right up for it. And that can lead on to the pitch sometimes. And again, what I thought Clement said, to agree with Chris, that was right about it, was that Rangers kept their heads and they were mature in those moments. The tackle on Lundstram, like the tackle that was on McCausland a couple of weeks ago, or the tackle that was on Lundstram against St Johnstone just before Christmas, you can't tackle like that with that pace. You see it all the time in English football. I don't think there's anything controversial about it. The penalty is the most Stonewall penalty
I know.
I can remember seeing. And it was actually, it shouldn't be lost. It was really good play by Tavernier and Sterling on the right hand side, and Sterling, although he's forced off injured, does really well to win that penalty. And the 2 yellow cards again. Rabbi Matondo was knocked through on goal in that situation, but he was about to run beyond. If you put your hands up in that situation, you risk a yellow card when you're on a yellow card. So I didn't think there was anything particularly controversial about it. Yes, the game got heated, and it was a lot of emotion. You could see that down on the bench. And Nick Montgomery he took some issue with the straight red cards, but overall, I don't think you could have many complaints watching that game. In particular, the penalty, Derek, which I thought was just clear as day. And Rangers probably just get the benefit of keeping their heads in what was a intense environment, because I thought Hibs were coming onto a game, especially at the start of the second half, and if they keep 11 men on for the game, it didn't look like Rangers were. I don't know how many times they got into the opposition box with the game 11 vs 11 in the second half, but it didn't feel like many. But Rangers kind of kept their heads, kept their composure, and ultimately got the benefit for that.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on this. Maka with a point here. He said, I would have liked to get Boyle in January. What is his injury, Derek? I don't like seeing anyone stretch it off. He was taken to hospital, wasn't he, Chris? I think he's. Did you see the chat? He collided with Shooter, didn't he, in that first half? It was a real bad one he took.
Two of them basically going up for a header, and I think the damage has been done just by the way that both players have landed. I think Boyle took a sore one. He's come down, landed really awkwardly, and then Shooter has then gone on top of him. I think you could tell straight away the reaction from both sets of players and the referees not ushering the medical staff on. There was a long delay, but in situations like that, you have to have full control over it. You have to let the medical staff do their thing. I think Hibs also provided an update on Martin last night, and I'm sure we all wish him the best and hope for a speedy recovery. As Maka said there, it's not nice when you see players down for that long and sectioned off in that manner. So hopefully it's not a bad one, and we see him back on the pitch soon, because in terms of Scottish football, he is one of the more creative, one of the squad or within the game. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, folks, I think we'll wrap up there. Over on the website right now, Josh has got a great piece on that injury crisis and how Clement, what he's going to do now as his options are getting limited by the game. We've got 2 offers on the website, incidentally. You'll see the little ticker below if you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook and Instagram this morning. £4 for 4 months, or you can take out an entire year's subscription on the Rangers Review for just £18. Incidentally, met a nice chap on the train back from the Benfica Stadium on Thursday night, having a wee chat, and he messaged me yesterday saying he's signed up and he's enjoying the content. So there you go. Hopefully I get commission for that from the big boss. But yeah, good. Great to hear stories like that. Right, plenty to come, of course, over on the YouTube channel. We'll do a Q&A show this afternoon for those that are members on the YouTube channel. So hope you can join us for that, and plenty on the website to come as always. Right, thanks to everyone for tuning in, and we'll speak to you a little later on. Bye.